Hey guys, thank you so much for exploding on over here to the Awesome Padron show. We saw, and if you saw our Barbenheimer review, we saw...
Yeah, that's officially the names of both these movies.
Yeah, Barbenheimer, yeah. If you saw our Barbie review, you'll know that we did a double feature. Also, if you look at our shirts, you can probably imagine we did a double feature. We did a double feature of both Barbie and Oppenheimer on Saturday. And so we're going to go ahead and talk about those, which is a movie I've been kind of looking forward to for a while, obviously ever since it was announced, because we're big fans of Christopher Nolan. I'll say that, I feel like Tenet was probably... I haven't seen all of Christopher Nolan movies. I'm not going to act like I have. But I feel like out of all of his movies, Tenet's probably one of my least favorites, or my least favorite of his. Right. I don't think it was bad, per se. I think it was a really cool movie, but it had no characterization, and it had no reason to have no characterization. Unlike a movie like Dunkirk. Dunkirk didn't really have any characterization, but it was really so fast-paced and so many characters. And it's not like anybody had time to be like, hey, here's how my childhood was, or something like that, Yeah. That one had a reason to not have that much characterization. I feel like Tenet could have had a lot more characterization.
Yeah, the main character's name is even just credited as the antagonist.
Yeah.
Or not the antagonist, the protagonist.
Yeah, the protagonist. And so going into this movie, I'm just like, I'm hoping it's at least better than that. And obviously the reviews are really good. And this movie is like I said, I haven't seen all of his movies, but this is probably
really only his earlier movies we haven't seen. We've pretty much seen everything from The Prestige on, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I just rubbed the microphone accidentally. But we haven't seen Following, Memento, or Insomnia. And I can't remember if there's other movies that he's had since other than that in the past, but we haven't seen those. But at least ever since The Dark Knight, this is his most character-driven movie. It's such a really a wonderful character analysis.
Right. Yeah. Character study. It's really like a psychological drama. Really, it's a World War II movie, obviously, but it never shows really any of the war, the actual war. It just focuses solely on Oppenheimer as a character and as a person.
And I will say I've seen discourse about this, and I wouldn't even say this is spoilers, but just in case. The movie doesn't really show anything outside of Oppenheimer's world, right? Other than there's a few parts where it cuts to something else going on with Robert Downey Jr.'s character, something like that, But it never shows the bombs dropping in Japan. It never shows, it never really shows anything outside of his world. And I've seen some discussion about how this movie should have shown the bombs dropping and how terrible it was for the Japanese over there. And I saw someone talk about how, because where the bombs were tested at, it was I think it was an Indian reservation. Yeah. And so people were they should have shown how awful it was for them and stuff like that. But I feel like this movie would have been... this movie was insanely focused on one person. It was insanely focused on Oppenheimer. Not just... This movie isn't just the process of how he did this. This is his mindset through this whole process.
Yeah, literally Oppenheimer is in, I didn't take notice, but I'm pretty sure he was in literally every scene other than the few scenes that focus on Robert Downey Jr.'s character.
Yeah.
And even those were just a few.
Exactly.
A few scenes in the movie. But the rest, he was probably in 90% of the movie.
Yeah. And I can't imagine, because this movie is so focused, and how focused this movie was, it would have been really awkward to kind of switch over to Japan, or to switch over to the Native Americans. And I've even seen a good point of those two things pretty much kind of deserve their own movie, Yeah. And so it would just be kind of awkward. This movie is so focused, so wonderfully focused, that I just don't feel like they should have kind of gotten sidetracked on those two things.
Right. And talking about the focus, this movie is 3 hours long. Well, it's about almost 3 hours long. But it's so quickly paced that it's kind of insane. And it's not a quick pace to where it feels rushed. It doesn't feel rushed at all. Like, but it kept moving over and like forward, like continuously. There's never like, I mean, there's a few scenes where it slowed down just a little bit, but even those scenes, you could feel it keep moving forward. But like I said, it never felt rushed. It always kept my attention. It is like such a captivating movie.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire 3-hour runtime.
Yeah, and that's really a lot to say for like the writing and directing of this movie, because I feel like a lesser writer, a lesser director would have made this movie, and I'm not trying to sound like some wild Christopher Nolan fanboy. I'm just saying, like, the writing and directing this movie, if they were done not as well, this movie would have been really boring.
Yeah,
because it's a lot of talking.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, I don't know if this is technically a spoiler, but they don't show like any of the war.
Yeah,
I mean, technically, if you want to consider the behind the scenes kind of the war, but they never show like the battlefield. Yeah, is what I mean. They never show that side of the war. Yeah. So a 3-hour movie, there's just the behind the scenes stuff and just people talking mostly. To keep it interesting for that amount of time is kind of a achievement.
Yeah, and I do like a lot of dialogue driven movies where like the main intrigue is dialogue, but like I feel like this kind of movie had an even bigger feat of not only did you have people talking, but you have people talking about stuff that not a lot of people understand.
Right, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, a lot of science and physics and all that.
Yeah, like you can follow the story pretty decently, but as far as some of the stuff they're talking about, they don't dumb it down, you know?
Yeah, and honestly, there were times, because I have a little pea-sized brain, so there's times where like I got completely lost. I'm like, okay, I don't know anything they're talking about right now. But I was always able to jump back into the movie at a certain point and follow along for the rest of the movie. It's just a testament to the writing of this movie and just the directing and everything. Honestly, it'd be kind of ridiculous if Aaron Sorkin and Christopher Nolan worked on a movie together.
Be great.
They have very similar writing styles, but I just love just how this movie is put together all around.
And I think that what adds, I know that what adds to this movie is the acting of this movie is fantastic.
Yeah, everybody is on their A game, honestly.
Yeah, I've seen a lot, and I've seen a lot of people say this, is that like, and I know I say that a lot, but I don't like to bring up points and act like I thought of them.
Yeah, right, yeah, for sure.
You know, like I've seen a lot of people say this is like, even the small roles were given their time to shine. Like Josh Peck was in this movie from Drake and Josh, and this, I hope this isn't a spoiler, but I don't think it is. Yeah. It's not really a spoiler at all. He has maybe 3 lines in this whole movie. He's in it a decent chunk of time, but he's usually just kind of in it somewhere in the shot, right? But one of his, I think like his final scene in the movie is like very important. Yeah. You know? Like,
very, very important.
It's like very important. And everybody has these moments to shine, even like the smaller roles, you know?
Even like Benny Safdie, I'm glad he's getting more roles. And he has a small role in this, but the scenes he was in, he was able to show his acting. He was able to perform well.
Yeah, and Cillian Murphy, and not only did he look a lot like Oppenheimer, and it's not like I knew Oppenheimer or anything like that, but I've seen videos, and he plays him off really well.
Oh yeah,
he does him really well. Yeah. Well, I might have been downloading the wrong movie.
And while we're on acting, I also definitely want to bring up Robert Downey Jr. because he's in this movie, and he probably has the second most focus in this movie, other than obviously Oppenheimer. And he really shows that he's not just the MCU actor. Yeah. And he really shows how much he put the MCU on his back, really, because of his acting ability. And a lot of people don't really give him credit enough for him being an actually great actor and not just Tony Stark. And he's really able to show that in this movie.
This movie needs to at least be nominated for a lot of Oscars. It needs to at least be nominated for a lot of Oscars. But I'm telling you, I know we're only roughly halfway through the year, and I haven't seen every movie. But I feel like this movie has to win for sound, because the sound's great, and obviously you have your bomb sounds, right? Those parts are there, and I'll get back to those later. right? But there's also a lot of sound editing and sound mixing throughout the entire movie. Whenever like they're trying to get you into Oppenheimer's mind, they use this kind of vibrating sound almost to kind of show you how like stressed he is.
Right. Yeah. And in those scenes, I also just really love the background would shake, and I just love the visual. It really put you in that mindset. And honestly, it's another reason why this movie is one of those movies that just deserves to be seen on a huge screen in the theater. Yeah,
and I'll say this: if you have a Dolby if you have a Dolby Cinema around you, and you've always like, maybe I'll get to it this time because it's a little pricey. If there's any movie that I could recommend that you see there, it's this movie.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially the Dolby theater that we have near us. The speakers literally vibrate the seats, like even just a regular movie.
Yeah.
But then this one especially, it's like your whole body's vibrating because the speakers are vibrating the chairs.
Yeah, exactly.
And I definitely want to see it in 30 millimeter IMAX.
70?
70, yeah, yes. 70.
30
yeah, just 30. No, 70. I do want to see it in 70 millimeter IMAX. Yeah. But I am glad that we saw it in Dolby.
And then also, I feel as if the score has a really good shot at winning the Oscar as well, because the score is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it's haunting at times, honestly.
Yeah, it is.
It's just beautiful all around.
Yeah, there's times where the score ever so slightly reminds me of Hereditary.
Oh yeah,
the last song in Hereditary. And this movie has very slight aspects of like horror almost.
Yeah, especially towards the second half of the movie. It honestly becomes almost like a psychological thriller.
Yeah.
Just because of the mindset that Oppenheimer is at that point. And I do want to talk just a little bit more about Cillian Murphy's acting, because I don't want to overlook that, because it's like great in this movie, especially like I was saying, the second half of this movie, which it's not necessarily a spoiler, because I mean it's pretty known fact, like pretty public knowledge, that after Oppenheimer finished creating the bomb, he had a lot of guilt because of what happened. I mean, the Destroyer of Worlds quote that is like one of his most popular quotes.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
And Cillian Murphy really portrays that like pretty perfectly. And like just this guy who was so obsessed with creating this bomb to end the war and to prove himself and everything, and then as soon as he does, he's like, well, crap, what did I just do?
Yeah. And I think that what a really good thing this movie does is it doesn't really portray him as a great person, but it also doesn't really portray him as like an evil person. It does a really good job of balancing that fine line of making sure you know that he is not a great person, but also like he was really like you said, he had this obsession, this determination to prove himself, and to prove himself as like a worthy American, you know, through this. And like I said, by the time it was over and done with, he was like, man, no, I shouldn't have done that.
What did I just put out into the world?
Yeah. I guess when I said, I shouldn't have done that.
No, I was agreeing with you. Whoopsie daisy.
Butterfingers.
And I also just really love the relationship between Oppenheimer and Robert Downey Jr.'s character. I think his name is Strauss. Just the whole dynamic between those two. And I'm not going to spoil on anything, but just how one interaction can kind of really change one person's perception of someone and kind of put them on this path of obsession towards having a goal.
I am going to say that Oppenheimer is 97% awesome.
And I'm going to say that Oppenheimer is 92% awesome.
Well, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, comment below and let us know what you thought about Oppenheimer, and also let us know which one you liked more between Barbie and Oppenheimer.
And don't forget to follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, all at The Awesome Padron Show. And we both have individual TikToks, which we'll put down below.
And as always, thank you so much for watching, and you will see us later.